Hey there, yet another Gotek video. I have done several, so click my icon to get to my channel if interested. As of today, there is but one stone left unturned in my Gotek series. It is known as FlashFloppy OSD, short for on-screen display. Imagine, if you would, being able to utilize a Gotek without needing to access it physically. Hide it inside your Amiga 500 or similar, and all interface controls and display are completely hidden, with the exception of the USB stick, of course. This is where FlashFloppy OSD comes in. It uses a separate STM board to send a video signal to the Amiga's RGB output. It displays the same information that would be seen on an OLED if you had one. It can also allow for keyboard control. This is a potential great solution for the Amiga 500, 600, and 1200 owner. You can see the Gotek display without having to look from the side, or having a display sticking out, or cutting your original Amiga case. Think of the possibilities! Anyway, in this video we will check this out and play around and see what it can do. This mod uses a separate STM32 board, nicknamed the Blue Pill, to output the Gotek display to one of the three color outputs on the Amiga. For example, if you choose to hook it to red, it will show red. If you hook it to blue, it will show a blue OSD, etc. It does this by converting the I2C display protocol that is normally designed for small monochrome displays to a composite signal that you can simply piggyback onto one of the RGB output signals of your Amiga. The keyboard control option must also be using the I2C protocol because there are no other connections to the Gotek. So let's get out this Blue Pill, obviously a Matrix reference. But wasn't the Blue Pill the one that would have kept Neo in his normal existence? Before we can connect this mod, we need to program it with the FlashFloppy OSD firmware. How do we do that? Well, with a USB to TTL adapter, of course. If you remember, that is one of two ways to program the Gotek from its factory firmware to FlashFloppy or Cortex. So you might already have one, but if not, they are cheap. The Amazon listing for the Blue Pill I just showed looks like it includes one, but I can't quite be sure because they call it an ST programmer and make no mention of it being a TTL device. First thing I did was to solder some jumper pins onto the board. You can see here I only soldered the ones I needed. On the top you can see A0 and A1 with pins and a jumper. I will explain the jumper later, but don't install it yet. On the bottom we have, from left to right, B15, A8, A9, and A10. Then B3 through B7, and finally 5 volts, ground, and 3.3 volts. Move the top jumper to the 1 position to enable DFU programming mode. You will be moving it back after programming. Then connect the Blue Pill to the TTL adapter as shown in this diagram. Need to make sure you switch it to 5 volts if you have a switch, or if there is a 5 volt output. Sometimes there's a switch, sometimes there's a separate 3 and 5 volt output. In my case, it's one output that's switchable with this switch. So I wonder if you could program this with the 3 volt 3.3 volt which is right there, but the FlashFloppy wiki indicates that it used 5 volts, so that's what we'll do. Now we just need to plug it in and program it. But first, get the FlashFloppy OSD firmware from the wiki, download and extract it. We will be using the same software we did for flashing the Gotek via TTL, Flash Loader Demonstrator. Make sure we have the correct COM port selected and click through. Select our extracted folder and the .hex file will be in there. Click Next and soon the process will be done. And don't forget to move the jumper back to position 0. To use FlashFloppy OSD, you may need to update your Gotek to one of the later revisions of FlashFloppy. I read somewhere that it requires version 3.5a. I just went with the latest, beta 3.9a. I've done a video that demonstrated how to upgrade the FlashFloppy firmware with a USB stick, so check my YouTube channel if you need to. Okay, so here I have the blue pill, and instead of doing a pull-up resistor in line, I went ahead and this is for the actual I2C connections. The two data stream is SDA and SCL. Those are supposed to be pulled up to 3.3 volts with a 4.7K resistor. So I just put it here on the back so that I could just use my straight through cables. So I'm pulling those two up, and then we got power and ground here. So I'm just using the same cables that that came with the Gotek for the LED that you would use on an OLED. That's kind of, I was trying to make it easy. Anyway, so then that brings us the input from the Gotek into this board and power and everything. And then coming out, we have a composite sync and a color, one of the 3 colors. And the composite sync is on black. It's A8 on this board, so it's black, and it comes over here and connects right next to the CIA chip right here. And you can ring that out with Denise. It's one of the outputs of Denise, but they're pretty good on the wiki showing you where to solder that to. There's a nice pad, an open via that's not being used that you can solder it into. And I actually attached jumper pins on all these so that I could remove everything, because this is Steve. I call him Steve. I repaired him and I use him as a test board, so I figured I could just leave these jumper pins in here for future. And then of course I have a jumper pin over here on the it's probably the blue if it's in order. I just soldered the pin where the ferrite bead is I just soldered the pin onto the side of the ferrite. There's a series resistor right there of the required type. Let's see, 270 ohm resistor, and going to one of the ferrite beads for one of the colors of the RGB. As far as the keyboard goes, it's optional. You could use the Gotek controls to navigate, but for the purposes of demonstration I will show you how to connect it. I mentioned earlier about a jumper connecting pins A0 and A1. Shorting these pins enable the custom protocol, and from what I understood on the wiki page, it enables you to retain the Gotek display and also have the OSD. And it also is required for the keyboard control of the Gotek. So here you see I've installed that jumper. So that's RP501, which has pull-ups for the keyboard. These are all pull-ups for the keyboard, or pull-downs, I don't remember, probably pull-ups. And pins 2 and 3 are the keyboard actual data and sync signals. So anyway, that's all we need. So now I just need to hook up a video output and a keyboard and power, and put a thumb drive in the Gotek and test it out. But let's just see how well this works. Just point to the screen. Oh, hi. And let's see if I can reach the power. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Yeah, right there. Red might not be the best choice. I think they recommend using green, or at least that's on the example. But anyway, okay, so in order to select alternate images, you hold the left control and left alt key down on the computer, on the keyboard, and then use the arrow keys left, right, and up to change images. So we're going to hit right, and we're going to change to our other images, and then to select it we press up, and there you go. Works pretty well. And if you hold down the arrow key while holding Control, if you hold down the left arrow, right arrow key, it goes fast, it delays and it goes fast, so that's very intuitive. Okay, so I'm going to show you one other thing about navigating disk images. Right now I have to hold down left control and left alt and use the arrow keys to move. But if I hit Control Alt and return, it actually it says, let me see what it shows. It says keyboard held. Now the keyboard is completely useless. I can't hit F1 to make me go through these menus in Amiga Test Kit. The keyboard is completely captured for the Gotek, and now I can scroll through images and select them without having to hold down Control Alt. I don't think I would ever use it this way, but maybe somebody would. But basically the thing is locked into the Gotek. The whole keyboard is locked into the Gotek until you press Control Alt, left Control, left Alt, and return again, where it releases the keyboard back. So anyway, okay, so we have the navigation down. You know how to do that. Another option you have is to hold down the Control Alt and hit delete, and it actually turns off the OSD. Now we're getting into communicating with the blue pill and not the actual Gotek. These are options that the blue pill is actually seeing. So, and by the way, there is a timer automatically in the Gotek that will time out the display. Let's just see what happens when it does time out. If the whole screen disappears, or is it just this part of it that disappears, and you still see this box. Yeah, so after a while the menu will turn itself off. So you really don't need to worry about that. Once you start loading a game, by the time it's loaded, the box will probably, or at least by the time you start playing, the box will probably have disappeared. So I'm going to hold down Control-Alt again, and I have the display again. Now, so we've discussed about turning on and off the display, and there's also another thing where we can actually get into the FlashFloppy OSD configuration menu. If I hold Control-Alt and Help down, I can get into the FlashFloppy. Now the navigation here works a little bit differently. You actually push up to go, Control-Alt up to go to the next setting. Yeah. So I'm pushing up, and down does not work. So if I push back, all that does is make the adjustment. So yeah, so if I push left or right key, it's going to, you know, change the setting or whatever. So this is kind of opposite of the way the Gotek is, where the arrow keys move back and forth between items. This one, you hold down Control-Alt and push up, and then I hit up the last time. It didn't loop the menu back. It actually took me out of the menu, so I have to go back in. So if you happen to go past your setting that you want to change, then you're going to have to go back into the menu by hitting Control-Alt, left Control, left Alt, and pressing Help. It does have settings for, just bring up that page. So there's a page on the FlashFloppy OSD wiki for changing these settings. You can look at them, see what they do. For most people, leaving them the default is fine. Obviously, we saw one of them move the display over pixel at a time. There's also things where if you hook it up differently or use a different hardware or whatever, you need to change some settings or whatever. So yeah, so that's basically it. That's how you use it. So you won't have to get into the FlashFloppy OSD settings menu most of the time. So that's it. This thing works pretty well. I could see a lot of applications where you'd want to have this. If you want to hide your Gotek inside your Amiga and, you know, just put a thumb drive in it. Maybe you have a thumb drive that you have like hundreds and hundreds of images in, and they're all you'd ever want, you know. Just stick the whole Gotek inside the Amiga, plug it into the DF0 port, just hide it in there, and then just use the keyboard to select images, you know. It's a very good mod. I would suggest it to anybody looking for that kind of thing. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.